Thank you. Thanks very much for such a lovely reception. I'm really incredibly proud to be asked to speak to you here today. It's amazing to see such a huge crowd of independence supporters in the middle of Scotland's capital city. And I want to thank each and every one of you for coming on this march today, because your confidence that independence is coming is not just heartwarming, it's also inspirational. And I know that as well as marching in joyful celebration today, you people who are marching are also the people who chap the doors and have the conversations with your neighbours and your family and your workmates and friends, the conversations that are convincing more and more of our fellow Scots to see how our future together is better as an independent nation. So I know that as well as marching here today, you are the people who fundraise for the Yes movement. And I know you are the people who do the groundwork for the Scottish National Party and the other pro-independence parties. And I know that you are the people who will make independence happen. So you should all be very proud of that, and don't let anyone ever say otherwise to you. In the midst of this toxic mess that Britain's in at the moment with Brexit, it's really wonderful to see such a positive outpouring of self-belief. And it's very important that we never let the positivity that started during the Indie Ref in 2014, it's very important we never let that descend into the sort of acrimony that we see at the heart of British politics at the moment. And it's very important that we understand and know that abusing and threatening those with whom we disagree is not the way to go. And I know that you know that already. And I know, because you are part of the movement, I know that you know the way to win independence is by calm, rational argument. But equally, days like today, when those of you who are the foot soldiers of our movement get together, are really important as well. And I want to say something about the independent Scotland that we aspire to create, because I think it's very important to say that it's going to be a very, very different place from Brexit Britain. And it's going to be an inclusive society and an egalitarian society where diversity is celebrated and immigrants are welcomed as new Scots. And it's going to be a fairer society where our pensioners get decent pensions that they've worked for all their lives. And it's going to be a fairer society where the burden of taxation falls on those best able to pay it. And it's also going to be a country that will lead the world in the fight for climate justice and the campaign for nuclear disarmament. But most of all, our independent Scotland will be at the heart of Europe, sitting at the top table. And we will not be like nationalists from England who want to be cantankerous on the sidelines, wishing for the British Empire to return, because that will never happen. Now, the message that the unionist parties want to give us is a negative message. And they want to say to people in Scotland, you cannae do this and you cannae do that. And of course, last week, a Liberal Democrat member of Parliament actually said to his constituents that he would rather they faced the catastrophic damage of a no-deal Brexit than become an independent nation. But of course, we know that's nonsense, because as we look across Europe, we see examples of small independent nations thriving and taking a seat at the top table alongside their larger neighbours. And nowhere do we see better the contrast between what Scotland is and what Scotland could be than when we look at the position of Ireland. A small, economically successful nation on the fringes of Western Europe that takes its seat at the top table in Europe and that dictates the EU's negotiating strategy while Scotland is ignored on the sidelines. But you know, the great thing, friends, is that Scotland hasn't been completely powerless in the struggle against Brexit. There have been some victories against the British government, and I've been very proud to be part of them. But those victories came by working with others. So when I worked with Andy Whiteman and went all the way to the Court of Justice to get the ruling that Article 50 could be unilaterally revoked, that was a defeat for the British government. And you know, we had to fight them the whole way, and many commentators ignored or belittled our efforts, but we won through. We won at the end of the day. And equally, with the challenge to Boris Johnson's prorogation, that wasn't just my case. There were other SNP MPs, Labour MPs, Lib Dem and independent MPs who all joined together, but the SNP provided the leadership. And when we started that case to try and have the prorogation declared unlawful, legal commentators north and south of the border said that we would lose. And media commentators were sceptical or just ignored us. And then when we lost at the first hurdle, they poured scorn on us. Then when we won before Scotland's Supreme Court, they belittled Scotland's Supreme Court and said surely that would be overturned in London. But we persevered and we won 11-0 in the United Kingdom Supreme Court. So we won against all the might of the British government, such as it is these days, against all the odds, because we had conviction and self-belief. We knew that in an independent Scotland, with a written constitution, we would have a proper set of fair rules, not a ragtag of conventions and so-called gentlemanly agreements. And we kept going, we kept fighting, and we righted a wrong. And that has been news across the world, that Scottish politicians led the legal fight which forced the British Parliament to go back to work. And by God, do people across Europe now understand why Scotland wants to be an independent nation? So, my message to you today is that independence is coming soon. In the current fog of British politics, it's hard just to see when and where the opportunity will arise. But it will arise, and we have to be ready for it. So my question to you today is, are you ready? I don't think they can hear you at the BBC. Are you ready? I don't think they can hear you at Westminster. Are you ready? Well, my friends, you look pretty ready to me. So my message to you, to coin a famous phrase from another Liberal Democrat, is go back to your constituencies and prepare for independence. Thank you.
Joanna Cherry.